Chapter 3. Alternate Way. Kris woke up and shook his head in disbelief. My father, what does he have to do with this? Kris asked himself. Kris got out of his bed and quickly jumped in the shower. What did she mean by my life is not entirely the same in that universe, and who should I choose as my partner? Kris thought as he got out of the shower. Kris shook his head again as he put his pants on. I could never put such a burden on Anna, Brandy would never believe me. I have only one choice, Duran, Kris said as he picked up the phone. What's up? Asked Duran. Kris thought for a second. We need to be ready for our dates tonight, Kris quickly said. I forgot about that, where should we take them? Asked Duran. I thought we can start at the mall, grab a bite to eat, take them window shopping, and things at the arcade, Kris responded. Sounds a little straightforward for you, are you okay? Asked Duran. I'm fine, I just want those two to feel comfortable before we get back to business, answered Kris. That is a good idea, I'll call up Brandy to set things up, Duran replied. Sounds good, Kris said as he put his headband on. See you then, and please don't ruin this, it's the best opportunity you've had since Leslie, don't blow it, lectured Duran. I won't, see you later, Kris said. Kris hung up the phone and walked over to the couch in the living room, sat down and relaxed. Meanwhile, Tanya, Angela, Daniel, and Gabriel were having lunch at the local Rubio's. This is getting out of hand, said Angela. She's right, Daniel added. I thought you were dating me, but I guess I was wrong, said Tanya, sarcastically. Enough of this. In the last few days, you guys have argued while Jennifer gets beat up, the letter that Kris wrote was taken back, and even worse now, we have a new feud with Dane and a group we know nothing about. Shut up and think about how we are going to fix this, Gabriel yelled as he banged his fist on the table. Daniel smirked. You make a lot of sense, Gabriel, with Kris and his pack of wolves out of the way for now, we can deal with this, agreed Daniel. Tanya gave a nod. First step is we need to find out more about the syndicate, Tanya said softly. We can't stop there. We need to do more than that, added Angela. Tanya took a sip of her soda and shook her head. What is it? Asked Daniel. You guys won't agree with this, but instead of working against Kris and his group, we need to make them work for us. They are more popular than ever now since the attack, and they know a lot about Dane. For the time being, we need to keep close tabs on them, suggested Tanya. Suddenly Angela's phone rang. That was Jennifer. She heard that Kris is going to the promenade on a date with Anna tonight, updated Angela. Outstanding, said Tanya as she stood up. A few hours later, Kris was already at Duran's house picking him up for their night out. Are you ready for this? Asked Duran. Of course I am, I just hope that they are, Kris answered. Kris pulled out of Duran's driveway. We are going back to school with some drama next week, Duran said as he let his hand out of the window to feel the breeze. Dane is serious about all of this, he's been underground for a while now, agreed Kris. He has a lot of connections it seems, and he doesn't seem to like Tanya and company very much, added Duran. I hate to say this, but we must keep Brandy and Anna out of this, for their safety, lectured Kris. As Kris and Duran agreed in unison, they arrived at Anna's house. Anna and Brandy came out to greet them. As hugs went around, the mood quickly turned serious. So Kris, Anna and I have been talking and we want to know, what is your past with Dane? Asked Brandy. That sounds like dinner conversation to me, now doesn't it? Responded Kris as he and Duran nodded in unison. The group arrived at the promenade and quickly went to the food court. They ordered a massive pizza from the villa and got situated. So Kris, where's the dinner conversation? Asked Anna. Well, when I and Duran were doing our thing during our sophomore year, Dane was one of our good friends, started Kris. We know that part already, Brandy interrupted. Can you let him finish, beautiful? Asked Duran. Brandy flashed Duran a dirty look but motioned for Kris to continue. When Duran left that year I went solo for a bit, Dane and I began to start taking respect and making alliances. One of mine was Nick and Jeremy, continued Kris. Wait, Jeremy. His brother John used to play on the football team with me. He was really weird though, added Duran. Now we're getting somewhere, Brandy and Anna said at the same time. I met Brandy shortly after that, and at the homecoming dance that year, Jeremy, and Nick had a disagreement, prompting a small split between myself, Dane, Jeremy, and Nick, Kris continued. Wait, I remember that. Why did they fight? Asked Brandy. Kris scarfed down another piece of pizza. Kris, you heard me, what did they fight over? Brandy asked again. You, answered Kris. Brandy sat back in shock. Dane and Jeremy left the group. No one knows what Dane was doing. I liked you so I stayed neutral. Dane changed over time, and when I saw him later that school year, he shaved his head and acted as if he never met me, Kris said as he stood up. Well, let's go guys, suggested Anna. Kris and Anna walked into an alternative apparel store. That lava lamp is cool, Anna pointed out. It is, my room could use one of those, agreed Kris. Duran and Brandy were close behind Kris and Anna. I could use these handcuffs, said Brandy. For what? Duran inquired. So I can arrest you for following me around all of the time, answered Brandy. I'll go buy them now then, Duran joked. They both laughed. Where the hell did those two go? Asked Brandy. Kris and Anna walked into a women's clothing store. Why don't you try some clothes on? Kris suggested. Anna came in and out of the fitting room in different outfits. Do you like this one? Asked Anna. Anna stood there in an orange dress and did a 360 so Kris could see. That's weird, you liked everything I tried on, said a puzzled Anna. I did, said Kris, with a smirk. You know that was orange. Nobody likes the color orange, Anna said sarcastically. They walked out and continued down the walkway. I heard there is a fortune teller here, we should go check it out, suggested Anna. All right, let's do it, Kris agreed. Meanwhile, Duran and Brandy continue their search for Kris and Anna. Where could they have gone? Asked Brandy. Let's not worry about those two, Duran suggested. This was supposed to be a double date, they know that, said a frustrated Brandy. At that moment, Brandy pointed forward. Over there. I know those two are over there, for sure, replied Brandy. Kris and Anna arrived inside of the fortune teller's booth. You two come over here, cried the fortune teller. The fortune teller, who was a woman in her 30s maybe, stared at Kris and Anna. How much? Asked Kris as he reached into his wallet. Money, it won't be able to buy the life ahead of you, exclaimed the fortune teller. How so? Asked Kris. You will be strong, this girl here will help you, the universe calls for you, answered the fortune teller. Universe? Asked Anna. Unfortunately, I am not universally capable of answering your questions. Beautiful Anna, the fortune teller told Anna as she smiled. What will my life become? Asked Kris as he and Anna displayed their looks of interest. Your life will become chaotic, you will work with people that you never thought you would work with, you will meet people that you never thought you would meet, and you will do things you never thought that you can do, boomed the fortune teller. Kris and Anna's look of shock was unmoved. That is all, yelled the fortune teller. Kris and Anna stood up and walked out. Kris, yelled Brandy. Duran and Brandy walk up to Kris and Anna. This was supposed to be a double date, said Brandy in an angry tone. Anna laughed. Brandy, calm down, Duran pleaded. Me and Kris are already on a date. When did this happen? Asked a puzzled Anna. Duran, what the hell? Asked Brandy. Brandy, come on, we don't need this right now, said Kris as he held Brandy back. Brandy quickly shook Kris's grip and broke toward Duran, swinging her hand to slap him. In a show of quick reflexes, Duran caught her hand and smirked. You two need to talk, Kris and Anna said at the same time. Kris and Anna walked away. How dare you, said a disgusted Brandy. I can explain, Duran quickly responded. You better make this good, yelled Brandy. Brandy, I like you a lot, I did this so I could tell you that, I didn't want it to be this way, said Duran softly. Well, bright idea, genius, Brandy responded sarcastically. I'm sorry, I paid Anna to go on a date with Kris, guess she conned me, replied Duran. Brandy stared at Duran for a second. They both laughed. So did you two work things out? Asked Kris. Duran and Brandy continued to laugh. Hey Kris, turn around, yelled Anna. Kris turned around. Tanya, said Kris, we had a deal, right? Well, time to put in your end of the bargain, boomed Tanya. What, Tanya, what do you want to know? Asked Kris. More about the syndicate, answered Tanya. Dane wants ultimate supremacy over every group at Paloma. Me and Duran are seniors. Our group will be without us next year, started Kris. Boo-hoo, Tanya cut in. That means that leaves you and your group, no seniors, all slated to be back next year, continued Kris. I don't get it, responded Tanya. Dane views you guys as a threat, you know about him. That carries on to next school year, finished Kris. That's enough, Tanya. Kris has told you what you need to know, said Anna. Kris, Anna, Duran, and Brandy started to walk away. Wait, Kris, I'm going after Dane. You and your wolves better not get in my way, declared Tanya. We won't, Kris shot back. Tanya walked away. The date ended there as Kris, Anna, Duran, and Brandy decided that too much happened for them to continue. They all went home. Kris is now at home, thinking about the day's events. Tanya, going after the syndicate alone is a deadly game. I have to do something, but what? Kris thought to himself. Kris turned off his lamp and laid down to sleep. That fortune teller was no coincidence. This Andiron Universe has something to do with this. I have to see it for myself, Kris thought. He soon fell asleep. Where am I? Asked Kris. In astral projection, answered Iria. You again? Asked Kris. Yes, it's time, Kris. By the way, where is your partner? Asked Iria. I couldn't bear to tell any of them, answered Kris. Fair enough. I will accompany you, but I cannot be seen when you are around anyone. You know it will disrupt the flow of the universes, if they have no knowledge of me in the normal universe, explained Iria. Okay, let's do this, responded Kris. Well, say it, Iria boomed. Andiron, yelled Kris. A blinding white light surrounded Kris and Iria. Soon it seemed the stars in the sky surrounded them, and another blinding light flashed. Whoa, said Kris. Kris looked at his hands and then around the room. You like it? Welcome to the Andiron Universe, announced Iria. This must be my room here, Kris said while continuing to look around. You are in your alternate body. Hurry, you have basketball practice in 45 minutes, ordered Iria. Kris got ready and shot downstairs. To his surprise, his mother, stepfather, his sisters Candace and Christina, and his little brother Anthony were there at the table eating breakfast. Kris, you should get moving, your practice is going to start soon, his mother advised. His stepfather tossed him a cereal bar and an energy drink. Thanks, said Kris as he smiled. Bye, Kris, have a good day, they all said. Kris walked out to the driveway. So far so good, said Kris as he took a bite from his cereal bar. The blue one's yours, Iria informed. Where did you come from? Asked Kris. I forgot to tell you I can teleport, anywhere you are or even anywhere to my knowledge, Iria explained. Kris stared at the blue 350Z. He unlocked the door to it and started the car and pulled out of the driveway. Iria appeared in the passenger seat. Can you please not do that when you don't need to? Asked Kris. I guess so, Iria answered. Kris arrived at Paloma and headed straight to the basketball gym. Kris Wilson, said a very familiar voice. Iria disappeared. What's up? Asked Kris. Hooping, as usual, alternate Duran replied. Practice started and ended. All of the players were socializing, and all 13 of them congratulated Kris. Kris eventually learned at the alternate Paloma Valley High School, he was the school's star basketball player. Hey, Speedstar, look who's in the crowd, revealed alternate Duran. Kris looked but thought for a second to realize his nickname in the Andiron Universe was Speedstar. I see her, Kris said as he locked eyes with alternate Tanya. She was slightly shorter than Kris, but that's because Kris was taller in the Andiron Universe at about 6'1". Kris and alternate Duran walked out of the gym. You know she's obsessed with you, but that might be because she's the Wildcats' head writer, alternate Duran said before he sipped his Gatorade. Tanya, no way, responded Kris. Good to hear, because Crystal is a much better choice, said alternate Duran with a smirk. Iria came into Kris's thoughts and told him that in the Andiron Universe, Crystal, the announcer from the Gundam tournament, is his girlfriend. I agree, Kris said while looking at his watch. Head cheerleader is what Crystal is. You are dating the best. My girlfriend Amber isn't too bad either, added alternate Duran proudly. Kris and alternate Duran continued walking. You know, nowadays, we have to watch out coming towards the new ASB room. All the freaks and geeks hang out over here, but our criminology class is over here, lectured alternate Duran. Criminology class is usually third period, funny. Well, at least I can see Anna first, Kris thought to himself as they walked into Ms. Santastevan's room. At that moment, Kris saw Anna, they locked eyes and turned away from each other. Why are you looking at Anna? She's cute, but she's the head of the anime club, joked alternate Duran. Kris nodded and again thought. That's funny too, there is no anime club at my Paloma. Kris thought. Iria again came into Kris's thoughts and told him that in the Andiron Universe, he does not know alternate Anna because their alternate Duran never left after his sophomore year, meaning that alternate Kris never met alternate Brandy, alternate Tanya, or any members of her company, and alternate Manny. Well, thanks for telling me that before I could find out myself, thought Kris. Anytime, but remember you aren't here to live alternate Kris's life. You are here to find Switchfire, the first of Uran's elemental masters, before the sun goes down, Iria reminded. Okay, deal, thought Kris. I will leave you for now, when it's time I'll tell you, Iria finished. Kris, come on, we have to go to second period, said alternate Duran as he woke Kris up. Kris stood up and followed alternate Duran. You know, that Anna girl secretly likes you, even though you don't even know her, laughed alternate Duran. The two walked to Ms. Brown's class. Second period English 4, we both got A's so we can coast, Ms. Brown's loves basketball and our whole team, informed alternate Duran as he slid into his seat. Yeah, I'm sure she fixes our grades like we're football players, joked Kris. Alternate Duran stared at Kris and laughed. She does, you haven't been awake not one day in this entire school year and you have an A+, quit joking around Speedstar, said a serious alternate Duran. Kris quickly ignored that and began to think to himself again, no Anna, no Brandy, Tanya sort of, what is so different here, Kris asked himself. Second period went by and it was time for their 10-minute nutrition break. Kris, I just noticed we haven't seen Crystal and Amber yet. They are not going to be happy with us, alternate Duran said as he grabbed his energy drink from the vending machine. Baby, there you are, 2 periods are too long, said a familiar young woman. There suddenly in front of him was a 5 feet 3 inches Crystal, long black hair to her upper back, brown eyes, a beautiful smile, and a very firm but soft body. Alternate Crystal pressed herself against Kris and gave him a passionate kiss. Duran, you know better, said alternate Amber. It was all Speedstar working hard so we can beat Paris, laughed alternate Duran. You know that is a big game, babe, that scout from UCLA is coming to watch you play and watch the head cheerleader herself, reminded alternate Crystal. I remember Crystal, Kris responded. Well, I can't see you at lunch, me and Amber have practice then so I'll see you after school, love you, babe, alternate Crystal said as she blew Kris a kiss. Kris stood there amazed. She's the difference, Kris thought to himself. Alternate Duran caught the kiss for Kris and then slapped him. Kris and alternate Duran laughed. That girl is everything, pretty, athletic, and smart, even though she controls you, she's worth it, alternate Duran said as they both turned around. Kris continued to think and interact for the next 2 periods. He discovered that he was popular as his alternate Duran because they are the school's top 2 basketball players. Although he does not know alternate Tanya, she still has an effect on his alternate life. Alternate Anna and alternate Brandy played absolutely no role in his alternate life. One major change is Crystal, who is alternate Kris's girlfriend. Crystal is important, I've noticed, but she isn't the key here. Why do I feel attracted to Tanya so much, thought Kris. Because you are still you, also just because I said you never met alternate Tanya didn't mean she wouldn't play a role in this world, boomed Iria. Okay, I see, I'm getting distracted, after school we will get right on finding Switchfire, Kris thought. Better talk, Kris, I'll be back then, said Iria. Lunchtime came. Kris and Duran were in the quad at their table. So Speedstar, what are you doing after school today, asked alternate Duran. I have to study for the SATs, so I'm booked tonight, Kris answered. The great Kris Wilson studying, I doubt it, interrupted alternate Tanya. Where did you come from, beautiful? Alternate Duran asked sarcastically. Who cares where I came from, the question is why I'm here, responded alternate Tanya. Why are you here? I don't even know you, said Kris as he looked at alternate Tanya. Tanya is my name. I am the head writer for the school paper, and I'm here to talk about my biggest story yet. You Kris, alternate Tanya said as she smiled. Me, why me? Asked Kris. Really, you are like the biggest thing going on at Paloma. Don't try to be modest, you are not known for that, answered alternate Tanya sarcastically. Get to the point of you being here. This moment, Kris shot back. My journalism teacher has approved of me going to your next class to get to know you for my final project, so I will see you then, said a quickly turned serious alternate Tanya. Alternate Tanya locked eyes with Kris and waved goodbye as she walked away. That girl chose to write about you for her final project, good deal speed star, but be careful though, she seems to have a special interest in you for some reason, alternate Duran said as he watched alternate Tanya disappear into the crowd. I get it, but that girl intrigues me, I'll do her story, said Kris while nodding. You know Crystal won't be happy about that, you should talk to her about this, alternate Duran suggested. Do you see her here right now? Asked Kris. Good point, responded alternate Duran. The bell rang. Well, have fun being the little journalist's big break, joked alternate Duran. I will see you tomorrow, said Kris as he slightly hesitated. Kris and alternate Duran walked their separate ways. Wow, he's pretty cool even though, he seems like a walking popularity contest, Kris thought to himself. Tanya reporting for the Wildcat. Kris, what's your fifth period class? Inquired alternate Tanya. Speech and debate, answered Kris. Speech and debate, easy class for the athlete, do you like it? Asked alternate Tanya. It's an elective, so it's okay, Kris responded as he opened the door to D108. Kris and alternate Tanya took their seats. Alright ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest today, Tanya, she's the head writer for the Wildcat. So be civil about your opinions, she's here to write about Kris, so don't distract her, said alternate Ms. Sotero as she handed them their criteria for their assignments. So what will you be debating on? Alternate Tanya inquired. If there is a social gap between popular and non-popular teenagers, answered Kris. Alternate Tanya stared at Kris. Seems like that's an easy one for you, right? Said alternate Tanya sarcastically. What's your deal? Kris shot back. People like you, who are idolized for playing sports, you do nothing but play a game and everyone knows your name, I despise that, Tanya answered in disgust. Is this why you chose to write about me? Because if it is, we are done here, responded Kris. Calm down, you wanna know why I chose you? Because I'm attracted to you, alternate Tanya said softly. That's an awesome reason, you despise me yet, you're attracted to me. That makes no sense at all, replied Kris as he pulled out a pen to write with. Not quite, but your debate topic. It might have some relevancy to it, alternate Tanya said as she looked at Kris's criteria paper. Why? Because a popular person like me wouldn't talk to someone like you? Kris asked sarcastically. Not necessarily, I'm quite popular too. I've been watching you since last year and you follow every sports star stereotype, answered alternate Tanya. How so? Asked Kris. Are you serious? You date the head cheerleader? All your friends are on the basketball team, and you and your best friend Duran are known for making fun of all the freaks and geeks. Should I continue? Answered alternate Tanya. Look, if you want to get to know me, drop the stereotypes. I could just say that you are a dirty journalist trying to do anything for a story. I'm sure Mrs. Lee would love to hear that about her head writer, Kris said as his face turned serious. Okay, you win, alternate Tanya responded. You want a story? I'll give you one. Come to my game tomorrow night. I know you'll be there anyway, Kris said as he stared at alternate Tanya. What will Crystal think about that? Asked alternate Tanya as she stared back at Kris. Kris laughed. I won't have to worry about that, Kris answered as the bell rang. Okay, I will be there, and Kris, if you could change, I would be much better for you than Crystal, remember that, alternate Tanya said as she kissed Kris on the cheek. Kris and alternate Tanya went their separate ways. Kris has no sixth period class in the Andiron Universe, so he went home. Wow, everything is so different here, no Anna, no Brandy, no Wolfpack, but this Tanya likes me way more than my Tanya, and Crystal is amazing. Too bad I can't stay, Kris said to himself. Iria appeared. You are right, you can't stay, and we have to hurry. We must find Switchfire before Switchfire finds you, warned Iria. So what's going on? Asked Kris. Aaron is a universal criminal. He performed biological experiments on himself, giving him the abilities of earth, wind, water, fire, wood, darkness, and metal, started Iria. So why not go straight to him? Asked Kris. Because you are not ready yet. He, along with a man named Saga, are gathering a group of the universe's greatest elemental masters, and Switchfire was the last to join up with them. This universe is sacred, Kris. It's like a dream to others, but it has been reality for you. My boss wanted you to see that, Iria continued. So where should we look? Asked Kris seriously. As far away from here as possible. We have 2 hours until your normal body is going to wake up. We have to be back here by then, ordered Iria. Kris and Iria walked out of the door. We can't take your car, I'm going to have to teleport, said Iria. Why not? Asked Kris as he put his keys back in his pocket. You never know what might happen. Your soul transfer could happen while Switchfire is around. Grab my hand, boomed Iria. Before they could even go anywhere, Kris spotted a wildfire in the abandoned hills. We must go there, now, yelled Iria. Iria teleported, and she and Kris appeared in the hills to a sea of fire. Switchfire is here, said Iria. Through the shadows the figure of a young woman stepped out of the flames. How did you know? I mean, it is a little hot around here, don't you think? Switchfire said while blowing a flame out from her finger. So you're Switchfire? I'm not very impressed, Kris said sarcastically. Switchfire laughed. Talk about not impressed, same to you. Lord Aaron would toss you around like a rag doll. You know, at first when I started this fire I didn't think you would show up. You got guts, Switchfire replied. You started a fire to get my attention. How juvenile. What's your story? Asked Kris as he crossed his arms. Simple. You are looking at the elemental master of fire. I have been a fire starter my whole life. Under Aaron I have learned to control it, along with the other masters. We will soon rule this universe and you won't be able to stop us, Switchfire taunted. So why not kill me now? Why the sweet formalities? Questioned Kris. Are you crazy? This young woman knows how to use her abilities. She could kill you, yelled Iria. No need to worry yourself, Iria. I have strict orders from Saga and Aaron not to harm Kris here, but if he dies in this fire, I won't lose any sleep, Switchfire said as her whole body became surrounded by fire. Switchfire began to run around Kris and Iria. Running blaze, yelled Switchfire. Grab my hand, Kris, the sun is almost down, yelled Iria. Iria and Kris disappeared and reappeared back at Kris's alternate home. Iria slapped Kris. This isn't a joke. She could have killed you. Your world and this one is at risk. Don't ever act that way again, boomed Iria. Kris stood there. You need to transfer back now. We'll brief you when you get back to the normal universe, okay? Iria informed. Sure thing, Kris said as he sat down. Kris traveled back to the normal universe. Sunday passed by quickly and Monday came. Kris is now getting ready for school. That girl could control fire, with no problem at all. That was all real too, Kris thought to himself as he shot downstairs. Kris walked into the kitchen and stood there staring at the table. This isn't the Andiron Universe, that's for sure. I'm home, which means I have to live my life now, Kris said to himself boldly. Kris got into his car and drove to Duran's house. You're late. Wait a minute, you're never late, said Duran sarcastically. Good to see you too, responded Kris. New week, which means back to business, right? Asked Duran. More than right, Tanya said she was going to go after the syndicate by herself, revealed Kris. Duran gave Kris a puzzled look. That's none of our concern, Duran replied. We have to help her. I know it sounds crazy, but if she goes down, the pack becomes Dane's target next school year, Kris said as he turned on Anna Street. Kris, let her go. You need to bury your past with Tanya, urged Duran. Fine, I'll do it myself. I'm going to follow Tanya today. And if she steps to the syndicate, so will I, declared Kris. Hey, you passed Anna's house, Duran pointed out. About that. I called Anna and Brandy yesterday and told them that you and I had some business to take care of. They're already at school, revealed Kris as he turned the car around. Duran laughed. I forgot we support each other no matter what the action. Count me in, Duran said as he looked at Kris. Kris drove down Bradley Road. Wait, we're going to follow her? Asked Duran. That's what I said. I got word that she's going to the library before first period. The plan is to be there, answered Kris as he parked and pulled the key out. Kris and Duran walked through the gates of Paloma Valley High School once again. Let's go, ordered Kris as he put his hood on. Meanwhile, in the library, Tanya is sitting at a corner table talking to two unknown people. So Dane's your leader. What does he have planned for us? Inquired Tanya. Dane has nothing planned for you. Your group is no threat to us, answered a young man. Is this a joke? Just 2 days ago, Dane said we would be an afterthought. What's with that? Tanya questioned as she shook her head. And Dane stands by his word. And do you know why? Asked the young man. Why? Replied Tanya. Because you and your group will be working with us. If you can keep Kris distracted, and we will have no problems, answered the young man. Kris and Duran were looking at books nearby. Did you hear that, Kris? Duran whispered. That sneaky son of a bitch, he's going to use Tanya as a front, Kris whispered back. Anyway, Dane would like to see you at lunch, and your group doesn't need to know anything about this, the young man said. Kris and Duran quickly passed the table Tanya was sitting at and went outside. Wait, why did we leave? Don't you want to know who they are? Asked Duran. It was Joe and Brad. I knew Dane would do this. He knows my strengths and weaknesses, answered Kris. What now? Duran asked. Easy, we know of their meeting. We just need to find out where it's going to be, answered Kris. This is getting tricky. You think Tanya would really agree to work with them? Asked Duran. I doubt that Tanya will roll over and play dead. That's why we stick to the plan and follow her, Kris lectured. About 5 minutes later, Tanya walks out of the library. Tanya, there you are, exclaimed Angela. Why are you over here? Gabriel questioned. No reason, I was already running late, answered Tanya. Daniel said you rode with him, went to the bathroom, and then you disappeared, Gabriel said as he started walking. He was gone when I came out. I just assumed he went to class. Everything is cool, assured Tanya. Okay, let's go, said Angela as she and Tanya began walking after Gabriel. Kris and Duran were sitting on a bench not far away. She didn't tell them. She's up to something, said Kris calmly. It's amazing how you know the way things are playing out, but I still think this is tricky, Duran said as he stood up. Let's head to class, we got all that we need for now, Kris said as he stood up as well. Meanwhile, Tanya and Angela were walking into class. Are you hiding something, Tanya? Asked Angela. No, what makes you think that? Tanya responded. I know you, Tanya, you love to do things alone, even though you have a whole group of other people behind you rooting for you, replied Angela. So, what? Tanya shot back. I'm going to give you some very friendly advice. Whatever you're doing, you should stop it. I'm sure whatever it isn't a good idea, advised Angela as they both sat at their desks. Tanya and Angela sat there staring at each other. First period ends and Angela and Tanya go their separate ways. Tanya, come over here, Gabriel motioned. What is it, Gabriel? Asked Tanya. Daniel went home sick. Also, I got this letter from Anna. I have no idea what she wants, answered Gabriel. Can we ever have a wolf-free day? Asked Tanya. Tanya read the contents of the letter. She wants to meet with me at lunch, Tanya revealed. So are you going to do it? Asked Gabriel. Yes, but it says here to come alone, Tanya responded. Are you crazy, Tanya? What has gotten into you? They could be working with the syndicate, Gabriel boomed. You never know who might be working with the syndicate, Tanya responded as she walked away. 2 hooded figures were standing in front of the soda machine. Anna? Asked Duran. No way, Kris remarked. What we do know is Tanya is refusing to tell her group about her deal with the syndicate, reminded Duran. That's good, it will make it harder for her to notice that we have been everywhere she has today, Kris said with a smirk. Shouldn't we talk to Anna? Inquired Duran. That would defeat the purpose, answered Kris. Point taken, Duran said as they walked into their second period class. Second period passed and Kris and Duran got into position to find Tanya once again. Hey Kris, she's coming, whispered Duran. Kris and Duran quickly got out of sight as Tanya and Gabriel came walking toward Mr. Fisher's room. Tanya, if you plan on working with Kris and his group to take the syndicate, I want in, said Gabriel as he opened the door. Kris and Duran quickly followed. I don't even know what she wants, but I can tell by the way she wrote the letter that Kris has nothing to do with it, responded Tanya. Well, if you need me today, let me know, because something is up, Gabriel said as he looked at Tanya. Okay, I'm going to meet someone who knows a lot about the syndicate at lunch today, but I have to do this alone, confessed Tanya. Where? Asked Gabriel. We're going to blend in with a group of people near the new ASB room. I'm going to get the information and leave, answered Tanya. Kris and Duran slowly slipped out of the room. Bingo, said Kris. Great, we know where the meeting is, but how are we going to find out what's going on with a bunch of people around? Asked Duran. Be one of those people, Kris responded. Duran nodded as they walked into their criminology class. Hey Kris, said Anna as she hugged him. What's up? Asked Kris. Nothing much, haven't seen you all day, answered Anna. We've been busy, Anna, you know that, Kris said as he sat down. I do, but does your business have anything to do with the syndicate? Asked Anna. Anna, we have been over this, I don't want you involved, Kris boomed. I'm already involved, Anna shot back. How so? Asked Kris. I hang out with you, and I thought that we were starting a relationship, Anna answered. She has a point, Kris, everyone we hang out with is involved, but now is not the time to talk about this, interrupted Duran. Kris, Duran, and Anna agreed in unison. Third period passed by, and fourth period did as well. Anna and Kris did not talk to each other, and when it was time for lunch, they went their separate ways. Meanwhile, Tanya was heading toward the basketball gym, with Kris and Duran not far behind. So, what is it, Anna? Asked Tanya. Those two guys that were standing behind Dane at the tournament told me that Dane wanted to meet with me, answered Anna. That means nothing to me, responded Tanya. Funny, because when I got here this morning, I saw you walk into the library with those same two guys, Anna said seriously. Is this a trick? Asked Tanya. Do you see Kris or Duran here? This is no joke, I know you are going to meet with them too. I say we put our differences aside, for our groups, and go there together, Anna said seriously. I didn't tell any of my friends about this. What about you? Asked Tanya. They all know nothing, Anna responded. Then let's go, the syndicate is expecting us, Tanya said as she started walking. Tanya and Anna walked away. Those two working together, this is tricky, Kris said as he shook his head. I'm going to text Brandy, in case something goes wrong, Duran said as he pulled his cell phone out of his pocket. Why Brandy? Asked Kris. Do you want Tanya and Anna to know that you are following them? Asked Duran. Point taken, Kris shot back. Let's go, Duran ordered as he put his hood back on. Tanya and Anna walked over towards the new ASB room. There are a lot of people over here, said Anna as she looked around. I see them, Tanya pointed out. Welcome Tanya and Anna, I see you two found each other, greeted Dane. So you did want to see her, what's the catch, Dane? Asked Tanya. Easy, I want both of you to work with me, answered Dane. I don't get it, responded Anna. Tanya, if you distract Kris on a series of wild goose chases, it would give me and my guys a chance to come up with a healthy resolution to this situation, lectured Dane. What about me? Why am I here? Asked Anna. Dane smiled. Your task is simple, all you have to do is hang with them as usual, and report everything that the wolf pack does to me, Dane answered. Anna laughed. Me, to be honest, I don't even know everything that Kris does on his time, I would be useless, Anna said sarcastically. You won't be useless, not without Tanya's help, said Dane calmly. Now that's where we draw the line, I refuse to work for you without my friend's knowledge, boomed Tanya. I hate to agree with her, but I can't do that to Kris, it's not right, Anna said in agreement. You two are making a big mistake, from here on out you two will be our main targets, Dane warned. So be it, Anna and Tanya said at the same time. Joe, Brad, take care of them, yelled Dane. Joe and Brad came out of the crowd. If either of you lay a hand on her, I'll beat your head in, said a familiar voice. Gabriel, said an excited Tanya. He's serious, I would back off if I were you, Brandy added. So the others come to save you. I'm surprised to not see Kris here as well, said Dane as he stood up. Let's handle this right now, Gabriel yelled. Dane laughed. Now that you are here, I have no business here, replied Dane as he disappeared into the crowd. They're gone, Brandy updated. Tanya, what the hell, I knew they had something to do with you acting shady, said an angry Gabriel. You are lucky I gave him the tip, or you would have been in big trouble, Brandy added as she looked at Tanya. What about Kris and Andiron, why are they not here, asked Anna. Funny thing is, we couldn't find them anywhere, Gabriel revealed. I'm sorry Brandy, I should have told you, Anna said solemnly. Tanya looked around. What is it, asked Gabriel. You two come over here, Tanya demanded. The two hooded figures tried getting out of the crowd but Tanya weaved her way to them and grabbed one of them. Do you work for them? Tanya asked as she pulled the figure's hood off. Looks of surprise came upon Anna, Brandy, and Gabriel's faces. Kris, yelled Tanya. Hi Tanya, Kris responded. Angela walked up. Tanya, what's going on? Inquired Angela. Nothing, Andiron said as he took his hood off and stepped between Kris and Tanya. You two were here the whole time, that's why, you didn't come to save Anna, you were spying on me, said Tanya in an angry tone. Tanya, I promise you, that is not what this is, I did this for you, Kris said softly. There is only one way you knew. Started Tanya. We followed you all day, and we found out you were meeting with them here. I'm so sorry Tanya, Kris interrupted. So that's it, Tanya, you like Kris, you two planned this so you could be together, I knew that you liked him in secret, Angela said while pointing at Tanya. Angela, that's stupid, you don't even know what's going on, boomed Gabriel. That's why we have been going through this bullshit, Angela complained. Angela, shut up, as for you, Kris, Tanya said as she stared at Kris. Tanya continued to stare at Kris. This is an all-time low for you, following me all day. How many times do I have to strike you out of my life, yelled Tanya. Kris stood there silent. Nothing to say, that's new, Tanya continued sarcastically. Tanya grabbed Kris's arm. Kris shook Tanya's grasp and walked away. Kris, yelled Anna. Andiron ran after him. Kris, what is wrong with you? Questioned Andiron. What are you talking about? Kris shot back. Kris and Andiron turned an abandoned corner. I'm talking about the way you looked at her, it was as if you did all of that because you love her, Andiron answered. Well, I don't, Kris boomed. You just walked away, normally you would never pass up a chance to stick it to Tanya, responded Andiron. Kris stood there with his arms crossed. Why are you acting like this? Andiron questioned. Kris didn't say anything. Fine, Andiron said as he started beating his fists. I'll just have to beat it out of you, yelled Andiron. Well then, get on with it, Kris said calmly. Are you serious? You're taking this truce thing too seriously, replied Andiron. You don't know anything, and I will not tell you why I just walked away from her again, Kris shot back. You didn't just walk away from her, you walked away from all of us, responded Andiron. I have already done that before, literally, Kris said as he turned around. Wait, what the hell are you talking about? Asked Andiron. You sure you want to know? I mean, they will just show you, so you don't have to believe me, Kris replied. Andiron gave Kris a puzzled look. I want to know, it's bothering you, so it must be good, remarked Andiron. I have been to an alternate universe, there I don't know Anna, Brandy, or Tanya and company, and a whole host of other people, Kris said solemnly. Well, did you know me? Asked Andiron. Yes, I did, and you were still cool, answered Kris. I can see how not knowing Anna and Brandy would bother you, but Tanya, that would be a blessing for you not to know her, Andiron said seriously. That's the thing, in this Andiron Universe, Brandy and Anna play no part in my life, and things are different, like my family, and Tanya has an interest in me because our social statuses are different, Kris continued. For some reason, this intrigues me, it sounds like a balance between both universes, said Andiron excitedly. It was not as fun as you think, I'm convinced that my alternate self is an asshole, Kris joked. What am I like there anyway? Asked Duran. You're a walking popularity contest, answered Kris. That's not cool, Duran replied. You date Amber there, Kris said as he motioned for Duran to follow him. I'm cool with that, Duran said as he smiled. Kris and Duran went to their fifth period class and soon school ended. The week eventually ended, and spring break began. Duran now knows of the Andiron Universe. Over the week Kris told him of Uran, Switchfire, and the looming mystery of the Elemental Masters. As Kris reveals his secret and one conflict is resolved, when will Duran be introduced to the universal struggle? End of Chapter 3.